Welcome to the Raw Honesty podcast with Fitz, where I invite people with a genuine love of learning to confront their moral blind spots and peel away their unrecognized mental barriers that prevent genuine freedom from becoming a reality. So stick around as we dive in with this week's guest. Okay, so before the episode begins, I just want to let you know that this episode comes with a strong language warning, so I highly recommend that you listen to it in private or with headphones or earphones on. Welcome back to Raw Honesty. We are now at episode 5. I'm actually jumping from tradition and I'm going to do something different that I haven't done yet, and that is I'm inviting Dave back for a second bite of the apple, so to speak, simply because when we finished recording, we actually had a conversation off air and some real powerful detail came out afterwards that, were just too much for me to let go. I just couldn't allow myself to let it go. So, I discussed it with Dave and he's kindly agreed to come back and elaborate on some of those details as part of this podcast. So before I invite Dave to carry on, just want to go back into where we left off, and we left off at that point where there was a real strong impulse for unity and the loneliness and suffering that comes out of that for Dave, where he's really wanting to know what it's like for people to unify where there is no bias or prejudice, where we're all equal, where we can see the truth and we live by the truth, even though we're imperfect beings, is to have a desire to work towards that. And basically expressing just the agony that he lives day to day, where doesn't see enough of that out in reality. So if you're hearing this and this speaks to you, hopefully you'll get something out of it. Also want to let you know that if you've missed number 4, what we talk about today is not going to be as powerful. So I highly recommend you stop listening now and go back to number 4, listen to it right to the end, and this will make a lot more sense what we're about to pick up on. And I'm just about to introduce Dave, so I've just got one more thing to say. The 2 things that I do usually is I leave people free to speak. The only time I interrupt is if we're going off topic or if I'm needing more clarity to understand better. If that does not suit you and that aggravates you, I still recommend that you stick around, because that's usually when something more powerful comes out and there's more value in the conversation. So without any further delay, I'm going to introduce Dave back again for episode 5. Dave, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Fitz, and the audience. Good to be here.
So I'm going to pick up where we left off in our conversation off air, where you were mentioning, about what it was like the days that you were part of a motorcycle gang, where there would be some people, and a fair amount, that would just sit in the shadows, and they were just more like what they call NPCs. But then there was only a small number that actually took action and stood up for what mattered to them. And you're giving me some detail about how that would work for you, and you being one of those people that couldn't just sit in the background. You used to go and take action at certain times. So I'm going to leave the rest with you, my friend.
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, so look, as I said in the other 4th episode there, like life choices had made me lead to different things, and I joined a bike club, and I was with them for about 6.5 years, and in that time, I partied, and I wasn't one that tried to go out of my way. How do I put this? I didn't go out of my way to turn around and try to cause trouble or be a problem to society or anything like that. But at the same token, I did let my ego get the better of me at the best of times, which also brought me to where I had a few incidences where I'd be asked to have a look at something. I'd see the evidence, I'd see the proofs or the fact, and nothing would happen. And so I took it upon myself to be judge, jury, and executioner. And whether that was with myself or one other, or whether it was with a few, I'd go around and I'd see these people, and yeah, and as I said, I didn't do anything without having the evidence and the facts in front of me, and I knew 100% that this person had done what they'd done, and I would explain to them why I was there, um, why, yeah, ask the question why you did what you did, etc., and then take matters into my own hands, and and especially when people, when they know they've been caught out, um, they have a tendency of wanting to lie and put themselves in deeper, thinking that somehow it's going to get them off it, but sort of just enrage me even more. But then
So,
after that,
so Dave,
sorry,
when you said it enraged you, did it make it more the way you exacted that execution? Did that actually escalate how much of that they got? Is that what happened?
yes, yes. So like, put it this way, if you like, I guess if I was to be honest, if it's one way or another, you're going to cop a punch in the mouth either way.
Yeah,
But if you turn around and bullshit to my face even more about it, you're going to cop more punches in the mouth than what you were going to get.
yeah. So
So that
in that space, what do you reckon that you were really important to you as to why you would triple the what you doled out? What do you reckon that you were defending that they weren't giving?
yeah, the need for honesty and to just be take responsibility and accountability for your actions.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it seemed to me like like I've watched my whole life the people do most of what they've done to me, just get away with it and that, and I realise now that that was no justification for my actions, and as I said, like I'd go away afterwards and I'd find out or get a phone call or something and get told, hey, do you know, baby, fuck this person up pretty bad, mate. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. He's lucky he's dead. If
yeah.
he's not, he's just lucky, and that was my ego and stuff because I'd be angry now because I was talking about it on the phone, and I'd just be losing my shit. And then I'd
So
get off the phone.
just in
Yeah,
that moment before you get to the next piece, when it was brought to your attention about how you know the damage that was caused, and you were disconnected from what the message was, what do you reckon was keeping you from your capacity to care about the damage to someone else in that moment where you were saying stuff and they're lucky they're still alive? Like, what do you
well,
reckon?
it was the fear of knowing that after I've done what I've done, I could be going to jail, or there's going to be retribution. And so I guess the honestly thinking about it, it was basically me still intimidating and using standover tactics and stuff to say pretty well much say a word or anything happens more from me, mate. Like look out,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Was there something about the dissatisfaction of the outcome, in the sense that they never still took responsibility, they never still were honest, so you never really got what you were wanting anyway? Was there something about that?
Look at the time. In total honesty, at the time, this wouldn't have even been a thought process through my head to even consider what we're talking about now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's the honest truth. I mean, if I knew what I knew, if I knew what I knew now back then, I wouldn't have even been part of a fucking bike club.
Yeah,
But anyway, as it would be, that would happen. That's what would happen, and and say, you have said phone call, Dave, you've done this, rah rah rah, and I'd go off whatever, and then I'd get off the phone and I'd be pacing up and down around my house, and I'd be like, and then half an hour later I'd calm down and I'd be thinking about what I'd done, and I start crying because I felt bad for what I'd done. Like my intentions weren't like as much as my intentions were to, I guess, somewhat give this person a lesson, and get some sort of justice, whatever. I didn't really want to, like, I didn't expect that I was going to go past that line,
yeah.
and do to the severousness of what I would do.
So
And,
when you
and
sorry,
sorry, and I just and like I'd have people turn around and say, mate, don't worry about it, mate. You're justified in every fucking way. Fuck them pieces of shit that deserved everything they got. And even still to this day, there's a part of me that would like to take responsibility for my actions and apologize to them, whether it's accepted or it's not accepted. But at the same token, I don't want to also I don't want to cause anybody any more PTSD. So it's sort of a double edged sort of a knife. And
So, what was coming up for me was when you were saying that other people were trying to console you, uh, and saying
yeah,
they deserved it. Did that give you any satisfaction at all, or did it make it worse?
at the time, look,
Yeah.
at the time that was fine. Yeah, I'm part of
Okay.
a bike club. I was part of a bike club, and and like especially for the ones that are all fucking hiding in the corners in the shadows, and when the going gets tough, they all fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an old saying, mate. Yeah, everybody wants to be a 1% until it's time to do 1% things.
Yeah.
And anyway, like at the end of the day, I'll look. I mean, I always tried to justify to myself I was never as bad as half of the guys within any club throughout Australia.
Yeah.
And the reality is yeah, sure, I might not have murdered anybody or done really, really, really fucked up bad shit. Yeah, and like I said, I could try to justify it to myself all I like. And now when I look back, there was just there's no justifications for my actions. They were totally unmoral and immoral and unprincipled.
So there's a part of
Um,
you that's got remorse around the actions you took, yet at the same time, there's something about how that's also what you received in your experience from other people who were in positions of authority. So there's like
yeah.
this unholy alliance there, because that's what you were shown. And there was never any justice for you. There was never anyone ever taking responsibility for you. And the difference was that they have a job title, and so they're not seen as a gang that way, right? So there's a misconception immediately in the minds of the majority of the population, that if you have a job title, it's got prestige to it. So any actions you take, they're totally different to anyone who's part of a what we call, like we outright call, a gang. They're immediately cast as immoral. Yet if we dig down to the principle, it's exactly the same behavior. There's no different. And so, if you had been raised in a structure that actually cared for life and held dignity up as its highest aspiration, what do you reckon the chances are that you would have even been, down this path of looking for some kind of gang to, insulate yourself with, and find some place to belong, and be accepted, and then use the same tactics that we used on you? Do you reckon that impulse would have been the same?
I don't think it would have been. I mean, I guess if I looked at all the evidence around me my whole life, yeah, anybody who was sort of nurtured with love and affection and whatnot, I mean, look, yeah, sure, some people go off the rails and go down different avenues that they wish they never went down. But yeah, look, I pretty well much didn't. I really didn't get much of a choice. I don't know what to say, kid. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, that's quite right. The thing that's showing up for me is the fact that you're here today speaking about this out loud. That says something about the quality of the character that's been sitting there the whole time, that probably needed to go through those experiences and, have the breakdown, because the breakdown is a real honest part of yourself, because you couldn't stop it. No matter how much rationalizing you did, it still came out. Um, and,
I look at it this way, buddy. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, look, I look at it this way, yeah. If I had a went down, you know, the latter way of life and with love and affection and stuff, as you just said, yeah, I don't think that my journey would have ever brought me to where I am now. And I would probably be like most indoctrinated, brainwashed people. And I would still be believing in government and systems and everything else like that. And I'd still be fully indoctrinated with bullshit. And I would never be having this conversation with you or the audience because I think you're all a bunch of crackpots. Because yeah,
so there'd be something about the comfort that you can imagine you would have experienced that would have insulated you from the conditions that you need to activate those higher levels of your awareness where you want to come into your true authentic self. Something about that you needed that kind of level of suffering in order for you to find the will to keep searching for something more that's true and eternal about you. Am I kind of
As sad,
close?
as sad as it is to hear that, mate, and it really is. It's sad to hear that somebody of 47 years of age had to go through all this shit for 47 years of his life to come to this point to have a better understanding of what he actually really is. And like, but I'll say within saying, I'm glad that I'm where I'm at. As lonely as it can be at times, and as frustrating as it can be, and as painful as it can be, I don't know why. Even when I want to give up and just fucking throw in the towel, I don't know. Tomorrow's another day, and I find another spark.
Yeah. So
So
there's that deeper part of you that just cannot be extinguished, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, oh yeah, and I mean, look, if there's anybody out there listening to this, I'm sure that they could identify when I say that once you see the truth, there's no one seeing it. And there's, for me, as like I said, as hard as it can be from one day to say maybe the next, there's just I just can't unsee it and just throw in like I just can't. As much as I want to give up, I just freaking can't. I have to keep on trying no matter how much I get kicked down and people want to make fun of me or ridicule me or do whatever they do. And I'm sure we've all gone through this, but I mean, it's just like, look, I just try to stand in courage and as vulnerable even right now as I feel speaking like this, and telling my experiences and sharing them. You know, I know that this is all part of the healing process. This is all part of the better understanding of what's brought me to here and why I've had the thoughts and why I've acted and done the things that I've done. And so yeah, which I guess look, I guess probably leads to the next sort of experience I had.
Just before you go ahead, Dave, I just want
Yeah,
to preface it with just giving
yeah,
a bit more clarity around. See, the majority of, as I've come to understand it and see it, the majority of society and most people who, each individual that makes up what we call society, quickly associates physical acts of aggression and hostility, where there's physical harm, as what violence means, and possibly verbal abuse and screaming and shouting. That's the extent of what their understanding of violence means. And so, what I wanted to bring to the table just before we move on is that violence is anything that causes some kind of reaction to your nervous system. Now, by a parent just calling their child a name, by calling them stupid or lazy, you know, or how dare you, or, that's inappropriate language, just simple things like that, they are all going to agitate and aggravate the nervous system. And so these are different ways to violate someone because what you're doing is you're casting an aspersion and a judgment, and you're making yourself right about the behavior of someone else, and you are the judge, jury, and executioner. So you might not be doing it physically, but you're doing it in a different way, an emotional, it's spiritual damage. Like that scars souls when children are constantly receiving those messages from people in these positions that have more power than them, because as an adult, you have more power than your child because they're dependent on you. And what gets missed is most of us grew up with some version of that. So if we didn't get physical violence, we would have got some kind of admonishment, some kind of disapproval, and then we would have suffered some kind of consequence to our self-esteem because of that. And these are all acts of violence. So if you're sitting here judging Dave and you're ignoring that, then you're missing how physical violence happens, because physical violence is like the last result. It's like the end of the line. First, those other things have to be in train, and they have to be consistent before there will be ever any physical violence. And so that's why I was asking you, Dave, earlier, like what did you really need from that individual? Because when they started quivering and, denying that they were responsible, right? You needed honesty, right? But the only way you were aware that you could get that, even though it didn't happen, was to force it.
oh yeah, it happened. It happened.
Oh, so they would become honest?
Oh yeah, there's only so much certain people can take, and then they crack.
Yeah. So the force is what generated the honesty because really their motivation, as I'm understanding it, was for the pain to stop. And so that's the only time they were ready to be honest because really they weren't motivated by being honest just for their own self growth. They were motivated to be honest because it was going to make the pain stop.
Pretty well much, mate. Look, I
Yeah.
mean, and then look, like I said, yeah, it's
And
not something I'm taking.
and that's our entire what we call our justice system today. It runs exactly the same. There's no difference, you know.
Show.
And so this is
Yeah,
the thing that I'm wanting to bring out. You know, that so many people think they're squeaky clean, but they don't realize they actually contribute to the very violence that they say they don't want by accepting that there's like more superior ways to punish people into compliance, and there's inferior ways where it's all the same. There's no discrimination between using an energy or force because as soon as you call someone a name, you're forcing them to accept something about themselves that you want them to accept. So they hate on themselves enough to change their behavior, right? That's all force. That's all violence. That's lower end vibrational consciousness of guilt and shame, anger, resentment, bitterness. These are all the lower end. And so I just wanted to bring that into the conversation just to give more balance. So anyone who believes that they're in a position where they're justified to judge you, to take a look inside first before you start launching outwards. So thank you for giving me that space, Dave. So I'm more than happy for you to carry on with what you're going to say.
oh, look, I just want to, ask everyone to bear witness that I'm not proud of what I did, and I have to live with that, every day of my life, and I'm just trying to be honest and, yeah, as I said, take responsibility for my actions. So, which brings me to the next thing, which is like basically, so like now that I've sort of discovered, that everything that I thought might have been somewhat, true or whatever is all bullshit. I've, went on this path of trying to work out more about looking inside me, as opposed to, trying to just blame everybody else and not take responsibility for what I do. And so that, yeah, so I'm an interstate truck driver. I just got back from Cairns. I've been away for about the last 8, 9 weeks straight. And because once I sort of get up there from Melbourne, I just run back to Brisbane and back and forth up north, and then come home, take a week off, whatever. Anyway, I happened to be going through in the last 8 weeks, whatever. I had to go down to Gunnedah, pick up a load of dog food to go up to Mareeba. And on the way down the Gunnedah, I'm in a empty B double Kenworth with 26 meters, say 28 ton, and I'm coming through a little town called Gurley, south of Moree. They've been doing roadworks because they got a new bloody service station they built and this, that, whatever. Anyway, long story short, a lot of people with their caravans, etc., parked in the truck part, whatever. You go through town 60 k's anyway, and it's down to like 40 or something now because of the roadworks. And ma and pa kettle on the side of the road, let the dog out for a wee, and the dog's just fucking run straight around the caravan out onto the road. And I'm seeing this all unfold as I'm coming up to it, and I'm like, and I'm on the phone with someone, and I'm just like, fucking shit, fuck, no, doggy, no, no, no. I didn't care about the other trucks and cars and whatnot. I just fucking hit the brakes and swerved to miss him because honestly, I just, yeah,
Do you remember what it was like once you stopped? What happened inside you when you actually, you know, you
I like, even now talking about it, I had, like I'm shaking, and it was like the fact that I'd come close to nearly just taking this dog's life, like it somewhat distorted me, made
yeah.
me feel really distraught. Because I didn't want to take this dog's life, especially in front of Ma and Pa Kettle and everybody else that was there. But more so because I just didn't want to take this animal's life. I didn't want to, yeah.
So there was
It's
a
still
real,
everything
if
possible
I'm
for.
hearing you right, there's a real strong impulse to preserve life. And when I go back to what we finished off on in our last recording, you were talking about that need for unity. And what better way to preserve the quality of life than if we all unify around that space where there is no advantage to anybody, where we're all equal, we can all see the truth as it operates, not how we want it to operate. You know, is there any better way to preserve life? Because that's the conditions necessary for peace and cohesive interaction, where it's voluntary and we respect one another's autonomy. And so my guess is that there's a link there that's starting and like a pattern of care, even though, you know, your behavior has obviously contravened that in the past, that part doesn't go away. It's still permanent. And I guess what I'm wanting to bring forward is if you're listening to this, can you recognize those bits in yourself? Can you recognize that, yes, there are times your behavior is in contradiction to what you're really caring about, yet what you really care about is always there. And I'm wondering how that sits with you as I'm saying that, Dave.
Yeah, look, I mean, yeah, it makes sense, especially with, I guess evolving and trying to open my consciousness and and sort of develop and spiritually and stuff like that. And yeah, the connection is just basically I guess for me it's just like basically, like I don't see the difference in the value of a life of a dog or a kangaroo or a bird as opposed to the life of a human. Although I must say that, there's been time where I hit a kangaroo as well, and I bawl my eyes out at 2:30 in the morning by myself on the highway, and then cry for like 20 odd minutes or whatever, and wonder what the fuck is wrong with me. Like, why am I breaking down? Why am I crying? Because I took this, I'm saying sorry to the universe. I'm saying sorry to the kangaroo, and then it's sort of like even the next day I'm on a phone call and I'm just explaining it because I just can't understand what's going on with me. Yeah. And even now I feel like a bit of a big fucking sook,
Yeah.
like, um, yeah. And I'm just trying to be honest because like, what I have sort of learned is that everything I did, like I said, was a survival mechanism. And really at the end of the day, I'm not, and that's what I wanted to get people to bear witness to is like I'm no big tough guy, man. I'm far from that, man. There's like, there's shitloads of guys bigger and tougher than I am. And as
I
I've
wonder if
realized,
those guys who are bigger and tougher would have the ability to come do what you're doing. That's the other side, right? Because if we start comparing ourselves to who's bigger and tougher, that's just an idea in the mind. And what's real toughness mean? Does it mean just to repeat the patterns of violence? Is that what tough is? Or is toughness really facing up to what's truly alive in you and who you really are, and actually looking for ways to bring that out so you can be authentic, as opposed to just repeating patterns? So there's ideas that comes up of what we think of when we say tough, and usually it just means physically more dominant and has more capacity to exert pain and suffering on someone else. That's how most people usually take that meaning. Is that how you're meaning it?
yeah, sort of in a way. And I mean, look, and I guess if I was to add to that, like it's not just that you put the suffering on other people as well because of the stories you tell yourself and the thoughts in your own head. It's also what you do to yourself. And which I guess I guess brings me to just the next and last experience I'd like to share was so it was only within this last look, I'm pretty sure it was at the start of this trip away or it was the last trip away, but anyway I was coming from Mariba. I was and I have to go across a range to go to Cairns and I have to split the trailers, and I come out of Mariba and about halfway there's a little service station, and that's where I usually split my trailers. And I'm, full tilt now. My truck doesn't go any faster than 100, 101 maximum, and that's on the GPS. Okay, and it fluctuates. Now, so I wasn't speeding, I wasn't doing anything that I shouldn't have been. Um, just before you come up to this service station, there's a set of double lanes, overtaking lanes. And the whole time from Mariba, I'd been, and this is just coming up towards midnight, and the whole time I'd been following this little hatchback sort of type thing, and had been, sort of getting, sort of speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, whatever. Hit the double lanes. I decided, fuck this, I'm going. So I went around, and and then, like, unfortunately, just always seems to happen. They seem to put their foot on the accelerator and decide they want to speed up. Anyway, I'm coming up towards the end of the double lanes, and I'm probably like a truck. My truck nose and wheels and stuff like that, and doors are past the front of the car. And I could see the end of the double lanes coming, and it was like, and at first it was like, I'm not stopping, mate. Like, keep, hit your brakes or whatever. And I realised this person wasn't going to do this. And like, pretty well much, I had no choice. I had to hit the brakes.
Well,
Otherwise,
I'm going to just interrupt you, Dave. I'm going to say you did have a choice and you made that choice.
well, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, okay, if it's that way, yeah. Okay, well, I made a choice, and the choice was, I guess that's me, just that old programming. Um, yeah, I had a choice, and the choice was, no matter how much it irritated me and irked me and stuff, and I was upset, I hit the brakes to make sure that I didn't run anybody off the road, and that I was safe, and that they were safe.
So
But I
in
was
that,
still pissed off.
yeah, so in that moment, what the bitterness was, do you recall what was bitter about that experience when you did hit the
What was,
brakes?
I guess it was the fact that, like I said, I'm in a 26-meter truck, 28 tons, and why the fuck would a little 1-ton hatchback want to turn around and sit there and go, I'm not going to hit the brakes, mate. You know what? I'm going to fuck keep going. Like,
So on some level, it was about that choice was left to you, where you're the one who's going to come off a lot better if it does go down to a split decision. Let's call it that. You're being what you're carrying is going to basically run that thing over if it tries to pull across you, right? It's just not going to happen. So I'm guessing there's something about the idea in your mind that they don't care for their own lives, and it's your responsibility to take care of their lives for them, where they're not actually, whoever's driving isn't actually going to go, hang on a second, I'm the one who's going to lose out of this, so why is it, it's the quick thing to do here is just to go, swallow your pride and slow the hell down because it's not worth it. And that didn't happen. And so then it was like, you've got the power and you still pulled back. And so my guess is there's something about the tension that you hold when you've got the power, because in your experience, those who held the power never held back. They always went ahead and used that power and abused you with it. And so you don't have a model of that. And so here's your position to be in that position of power, and that's all you've ever known. And then you're going against the way it's ever been dished out to you. Is that ringing any bells for you?
well, it's sort of like, yeah, in a way. I mean, like, for me, I guess if I was to break it down the way I was feeling at the time, it was like, at the end of the day, two things. One, their lives and my life were at risk if I didn't make the choice and decision that I made. And oh, look, sorry, mate, I forgot the second one, but that was the main priority. It was is basically, not only were their lives at risk, it was my life at risk. So I made the choice. I made the decision, as much as I didn't want to, and etc. I
Let me ask you this.
and I remember my thoughts were, like, I didn't want to be responsible for running them off the road.
Yeah, even though they were the ones that had a choice about that as well, you still took responsibility for both of you on some level. Let me ask you this, Dave. When you let them through and you slow down, even though it takes a lot more force to slow down a big truck than it does a little car, um, did you get any kind of wave or acknowledgement or recognition from them?
No, wait, it gets better.
Okay.
So 2Ks up the road is where the service station is, where I after this overtaking lane is where I split the trailers. And where it is at the front, it's like a parking, like I say, like a off the road parking bay sort of type thing, because there's a side street for people to come out from the town that's there. And that's where I've always split my trailers. and there's only enough room really for me to do that, and that's it. Anyway, as I let that car go, I've sort of wound it back up, and they've gotten a little bit in front of me now, and all of a sudden I see them pull up into where I need to split, and I'm pulling up as well. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And the first thing that went through my head was like I'd sort of forgotten about what was going on now. All I was worried about is I'm not going to have enough because it's the only place I can split the trailers as well, yeah. So before I go over the range, and I was like, oh shit, man. So I jumped out the truck and I walked down towards them.
So you were worried that you weren't going to have the room you needed to split the trailers. Is that the issue? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And they
Right.
were in
And
the,
I
and
mean,
they
look,
were in and they were in the way of that.
yeah, they were in the Wi-Fi, and it was like, and like, there's a whole servo there, this, that, plenty of other places that they could have pulled up, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't going out with the intention of, even after what had just happened, I wasn't going out with the intention of, you know, to just bite their heads off or anything like that. So anyway, I got out and I walked towards the car, and the gentleman jumps out of the car, and he's a fairly decent sort of size bloke. You know, I mean, I've got tattoos pretty well much from head to toe sort of type thing, and I guess I could look intimidating to some people. I don't look that intimidating anymore, but well, I don't think. And as I was walking up though, I sort of had my hands up so I wasn't threatening, and I was like, "G'day, mate." Like, look, mate, I don't mean to be a pain, mate. Is there any chance you can move? I've got to split my trailers. This is the only place that I can do it. And by this stage, I'm now sort of face to face with the gentleman, and I'm just talking to him, mate. Yeah, and he just goes, "Mate, why'd you try to fucking run me off the road?" I was just like, "Whoa, man, what?" I go, "What do you mean, mate? I didn't try to run you off the road at all, buddy." He goes, "Mate, I was doing 100 and rah, rah." I'm going, "Look, mate, I experience this every day. Yeah, people think their speedos are calibrated correctly, mate. If you jumped on your phone and got on the Google Maps, I think you'd find that you weren't, mate. I said, because the GPS, I can tell you, I don't go any faster than 100, 101 maximum." And oh, you're fucking foolish. I'm like, "Mate, can we talk about?" He goes, "I don't want to fucking talk about this, mate. I just want to fucking smash you in the face." And it was like right then at that time, I just sort of laughed and scoffed, mate. And the first thing that I thought about was just uppercutting this fucking idiot and just like, knocking him out. And the thing that went through my head was, if I did that, he was going to end up off his feet out onto the road, and knowing my fucking luck, a car or a truck would come past at that time, and we know how that's going to work. And anyway, I just laughed at him and stuff. And then at this stage, his wife, I'm guessing it is, or his partner, or whoever it was, they've got out the car now. She's come out, started mouthing off to him, blah, blah, and I've just gone, I already seen what was about to unfold in front of me. Life experiences, put it down to that, yeah. And I just laughed, turned my back, and I walked away. And I jumped in the truck, and I watched them talking at the back of the car, whatever, etc., etc. And I just sort of waited, because at this stage I'm like, I'm sort of shaking, because like, I guess there was a part of me, if I'm being honest, that I just wanted to knock this guy clean out. I just thought, you fucking rude prick, you're a fucking asshole. You just did what you did, and and then you're blaming me and this, that, rah, rah, rah. And then, making me think like I was going to run him off the road. And I just started, having all these conflicting thoughts in my head now afterwards, yeah. And it wasn't, I think, till the next day or a couple of days later, like, they got in the car and they drove off, and I just went about my day, right? And
So,
it wasn't, yeah, sorry.
so I was just letting you know that we've got about a minute before we get cut off.
Yep.
What I did want
Yep.
to just mention, what I could see the running theme was, is the lack of self-awareness, the lack of personal responsibility, and the lack of honesty. And it seems like a running theme as to everything you've shared today. And so you're constantly being confronted with this, with how prevalent it is in other people, while you're trying to do your best to move into that space where you are being more honest, you are taking responsibility, and you are, wanting to care for other people. And when you said you could see that if you was to uppercut him and he was landing on the road, that's gone. That opportunity doesn't happen again, right? So that was powerful enough to stop you from falling back into those old patterns.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, look, and just before we get cut off, or hopefully we don't, but I mean, look, at the bottom line is what I realized was I had told myself, and like so from actually what happened, if you watched it from the movie perspective, to what actually my brain was telling myself in the truck and everything afterwards, and the next day or following day.
Unfortunately, our connection time ran out, so we needed to establish a new connection. By the time that all started up, obviously it was hard to remember exactly where we left off. So when we pick it up, it's slightly off course, yet the full picture is still able to be grasped when you listen through. So here we go.
I remember like after I hopped back in the truck and stuff like that, I was actually quite flustered, and I was, sort of pissed off with myself. It was even a point where I thought to myself, I want to jump back out now, because I felt weak, and I just felt stupid because I just let this person walk all over me, and like they don't, like they just didn't even realize, or it's like they didn't even care about anything else except for blaming me for everything else, and then threatened to punch me and this. Oh, they're just like, yeah, and like I started having old thought, processes going through my head. I'm thinking, and it wasn't until and it was something hard to sit with for a couple of days, I think it was, until I actually spoke to my mentor and stuff, and it was like they helped me break it down, and it was like when I saw when I sat and I saw the movie for how it was actually, how anybody else would have seen it if it was played out and you were to watch it, you know, as opposed to what my brain told me. Fuck, what two different sides of a story there was, and then just the amount that I didn't realize how much like I blamed myself. I was blaming myself, and I was going, oh, if I just hadn't have done this, and if I hadn't have done that, if I hadn't have tried to have overtaken him, if I had have like if I hadn't have pulled up to split the trailers behind him, then there wouldn't have been the confrontation in the first place, etc., etc. But it all did, and it was probably one of the most valuable lessons I actually had within my evolving of consciousness, because it actually made me realize how much we let our thoughts and feelings play on what's really actually going on, and how it was easy for me to turn around and try to blame that person, where in reality, when I sat back and looked at what my actions were, you know, um, the betterment for mankind and the need for people to be safe and alive is what drew me to the actions and choices that I made that night, that kept my life alive and them, as well as sorry, they had a child in the car as well. They were packed up, homeless people, and I've seen it all the way from up there down. It's just everywhere. But anyway, the point being, moving at that time of the night. And that's what I mean when I sat back and I thought about it all after talking, and that's what I mean. Sometimes it's taken being able to talk to others that have actually somewhat got the knowledge and the toolkits to understand, to not feel alone, and to then be able to get a better perspective of actually what's been happening, instead of sort of beating myself up so much, thinking that I was doing the wrong thing and stuff. So, and at the end of the day, it's taken a while for me to understand that, like my actions and choices were right in every way.
So if I'm hearing what you're saying, did you have more to say, Dave, before I carry on?
I was just going to say, like my intentions behind my actions actually met up.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing what you're saying, on some level, there was a loss of the recognition that you would have liked to have received, that, you were the one who took the decisive action that was the result in everyone's life being spared and everyone being able to carry on going about doing what it is they were intending to do. And so there's no detrimental effect to anybody. So there was a requirement for that recognition. And instead of that recognition, you got blame, you got the apportioning of responsibility 100% on you. And whenever you've ever experienced that throughout your entire life, as most people I'm guessing would be able to recognize this, that's when violence shows up. So you know how you said you had that thing like, oh, why did you walk away? You're so weak. You're starting to talk yourself into this space that why didn't you just let and teach him a lesson the way you've always done, the way you've done from so many years, the way that you've been taught lessons, things that seem so natural, but they're really habitual. Um, you had that conflict, and then when it was drawn to your attention that there's a higher aspect of you that could rise above that, even though you didn't have the language and the awareness to be able to fully recognize it, when it was drawn to your attention, that's when you actually were able to find the peace, because that's where you were in alignment with what really matters to you. Same reason as to when you stop for the dog, same reason as to when the kangaroo has just landed up on the front of your vehicle, and that devastation that occurred, why you were bawling your eyes out, right? It's exactly the same, and that is that you care for the preservation and the equity of life. And when you can come and sit with that really matters, and that's at the forefront of what drives you to carry on, in spite of all the damage that keeps unfolding, and the way that people refuse to actually take responsibility, and what effect that has on you. It still doesn't stop you. You still carry on and you push through. And there's the loneliness would come from, if you know you can do it and you care enough to face up to yourself, it makes it even more agonizing when you're surrounded by people who refuse to take that level of responsibility. And so there's something about that tension that you hold between the two, the joy of what it's like to be able to take that action for yourself and own it, versus to you're still on the receiving end of other people refusing to take that responsibility. So it creates this unholy tension, that you're sort of, put into a situation where you're needing to really call upon aspects of yourself that you haven't really built enough reserves to be able to deal with, in the way you'd like every time it happens, because it happens so often. So I just wanted to say, if that's landing for you, let me know how close I am to any of that.
No, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, look, I mean, this is, I guess if I was to bring it back to episode 4 or the first recording I did with you the other day, I mean, look, like the whole reason why I'm sort of really irked with the freedom movement and stuff is because they all talk, like I said, they all talk about MK Ultra and this and that, and yet they won't have a conversation with anybody, but yet they say that they're all about free speech and no censoring, and we're all about the truth here. But yeah, why is it nobody wants to discover the truth and talk about it? And like, this is what I mean. It's through experiences, and like, adding on to, or just to finish off on that experience with the car and stuff. What happened? I remember also when I spoke to my mentor, saying to him, like, well, I guess, the fact that people do negate their responsibilities and taking accountability for how they think and act is is one of the reasons, I guess, was the reason why this person, like I said to him, I can't understand why this person threatened to fucking want to punch me when, after what I did, it was actually saved both of everyone's life, sort of thing. And as it was explained, just like, in that moment, people, they lose their power. And so what happens? Everybody starts, yelling and screaming at each other and calling each other names. And as it's been discussed, even with me, like when I turn around and I swear and things like this, it's because of trauma. It might be because of this, but it's also a way of trying to gain my power back. And these are the things that, as imperfectly imperfect, or whatever the bloody thing is, I am. Um, I keep on just trying to move forward, and not. I guess the hardest thing about trying to change and be better is being kind to yourself, and that's one of the hardest parts I've been finding within this journey.
Yeah.
And I've been taking a lot of blame and, I guess, responsibility and accountability for others' actions as well without even understanding how or why.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with that, look, that's, I guess, that's pretty well much, I guess, really, like without, yeah, I don't want to be the center of attention, trust me. But look, yeah, if I was to finish off on sort of anything fits, I'd just like to say to people, like, if somebody who's come from where I've come from in life, and then, trust me, there's a lot of people worse off than and had it worse than I have, and I feel for every one of them. But at the end of the day, if you really genuinely, genuine about wanting to actually learn about yourself and somewhat look deep into places where you've never thought of looking, or whatnot. I'd like to just recommend that a lot of people, if not, just to go in and have a look, either on YouTube, Facebook, on a website, Soul Refinery, because it's helped me so much. And I'm not, not being biased or anything in any way, but it's made me see things about myself that I never knew was there, and it's right in your face. It's so in your face that it's a killer. And I guess it's because of that, which is one of the reasons I have such a somewhat animosity towards the freedom movement, because it just really seems like, as much as everybody says that they know about programming and MK Ultra and all this other bullshit, they're not really willing to do what's needed, the shadow work within themselves. And even when you try to guide or direct them to it, they still won't take it. And I guess that's where a lot of my frustrations come from, as you said, because I mean, how if I can have the willingness and the want to discover this, I just don't understand how so many others who, and I know so many are good people, have got a good hearts. They've just, I guess, the same as myself, they've been misled down the wrong path. And until until we until we can sort of talk about this, and I don't think, in my honest thoughts, until we talk about this as a collective, and this topic is actually brought up and looked into, I don't think people are going to really move any forward from where we are and stuff, because nobody's really looking to the inner self. Everybody is actually looking to hope that there's some external source that is going to save them from themselves. And look, all I can speak is from my experiences, the knowledge I've gotten, and I can assure you that's not going to happen. And I guess if there is anybody out there who would like to talk to me, by all means, I'm in I'm in groups. You can correspond through Fits to get details or whatnot to talk, whatever. But I'm more than willing to want to have discussions with whomever, whatever. Like, this is part and parcel of how we all need to move forward as a species and evolve. So anyway, other than that, I'd like to thank the audience and you, Fitz, for your time and effort, and again, thank you for everybody letting me share and be on the podcast.
Uh, Got a bit speechless now, Dave. Usually I'm the one who's full of words. I wasn't
Oh, look,
expecting that. So, yeah, thank you. So, I wish I had better words than thank you right now. There's a deep gratitude. I'm feeling a real charge inside me about your willingness to actually expose yourself, because there's very little of that in our day experience where people will really go to that level, because they're terrified of what the consequences to them are and how they'll be perceived, and social isolation, and it takes a fair amount of courage to ascend out of that space and still bear, yourself raw and nakedly, and take responsibility in a public space. That's not a common thing. It gets, and what I'm hearing you say is it gets espoused as if that's what people are getting by the words people are using. Yet when it comes to taking the action, it's very flimsy, and there's a real need to have that line up, where the intention and the action are the same, as you've mentioned earlier. And there isn't really a model for that. So I guess my gratitude is that you're willing to come forward and show the model, even in your own contradictions, right? That you're still willing to carry on and own up to the contradictions, where there has been, an intention and an action being out of alignment with each other, and still persist to call it out for yourself, because before you're going to call it out on anyone else, you need to have the courage to call it out in yourself. So that, that's a very rare experience, and that's a source of loneliness as well. So for those, of you who are listening, you can see that Dave totally survived this, right? He's still here, and he's still moving on. And if that's something you've been, curious about, can you do that? Then I welcome you to the podcast, and see if you're willing to have the experience for yourself. Can you step out of that shell and start filling it up with who you really are, as opposed to what you've, habitually learnt to be, and the two are, insurmountably different. And so again, Dave, my complete gratitude. That's something that, this is one that I'll treasure for a long time. The fact that you've willingly come back and given more detail, and you've gotten more into the tender, vulnerable aspects of yourself, knowing that on the outside, very few people would be able to see that that's actually in existence, that you could even have those parts, exposed, and you'd have a willingness to do that. So that's a call out to anybody who, has something that's really pressing on them, that you can liberate yourself if the will is there. And so you move out of that fear space and into that love space, where you're willing to take responsibility, not from a place of hating on yourself, but from a place of really caring about growing and developing. So again, Dave, my deepest gratitude. That's about as much as I can say about that.
Thank you very much, mate. And thanks again.
All right, everyone, that was episode 5. I really hope you got as much value as I did out of it. So that's it for today, and I look forward to seeing what we have in store for you in episode 6.
Belief is a toxic and dangerous attitude toward reality, I think. After all, if it's there, it doesn't require your belief. And if it's not there, why should you believe in it? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.